Hi, this is Amy from Gerrie Electric, and I wanted to show you how to set up some display clients within ThinManager. So let's get started. On the left-hand side of the screen here, I have my Display Client tab. So what's important to remember is the differences between the display servers and the display clients. Display servers are where our sources of content are held, and display clients is how we're going to display the content located within those servers out to our Thin Client terminals themselves. So you can see here from the display client screen, we have 6 different types of display clients that can be set up in our system. A remote desktop services display client, that's how we're going to send an application out to our Thin Client itself. Camera, that's how we're going to display a camera connection we're making through a USB or an IP camera. Terminal shadow, how we're going to be able to shadow one terminal and display the content on another. VNC, which will allow you to create a VNC connection to a device and shadow things like a panel view that may be out on your shop floor, being able to bring that content into, say, a control room or shadow that somewhere else within the facility. And virtual screen, which allows you to bring all of these sources of content and displays together. So let's start with remote desktop services. If I want to send a Windows application that's running on one of my remote desktop servers out to my Thin Client, I'm going to set it up here. So I'm going to right click and go add display client, and we'll go through this wizard together. The first thing I need to do, of course, is give my client a name. And because I clicked on add terminal here in remote desktop services, you can see my type of display client is already filled in for me. When I go to my next page, I have some customizable options for this display client. Allow display client to be tiled. So am I going to allow this display client to be shrunken down and tiled onto a monitor? And this is something you may not want, because depending on the content you're sending, it may not be visible when you bring it down to that smaller size and resolution. Allow display client to be moved. So for example, if you're viewing things in a tile setup, am I going to allow my display client to move around the screen? Include camera overlays. So if I'm maybe sending an HMI application out to my terminal, but I want to be able to monitor production or some other part of the line, I can include a camera overlay to monitor that while I'm running my machine and I have my HMI operational. I also have the options here to connect when the terminal is booted up and always maintain a connection to that display server. My second option here allows the option of auto login with my credentials as well as application link. Application link is the ThinManager feature that allows you to send just that application to the terminal. No Windows desktop behind that. So if someone were to close the content displayed on the screen, it's going to auto load again. So I'm going to add this display client with application link to show you how easy that is to set up. So after this, I have some options for scaling. I can choose to only scale down, maintain my aspect ratio, or use a custom screen resolution on my display. This option here, for display client members, you're going to choose the remote desktop server from your available lists where this application resides. So in my case, I'm going to send a web browser, and I know it exists on RDS1. So I'm going to add that here. If I'm looking for a feature such as instant failover, I can enable that, and then I'm going to add my secondary remote desktop server here. Remember, if you have 2 selected remote desktop servers for content, you're going to want to ensure the application exists on both remote desktop servers and in the same location. So once I've selected my remote desktop server, I now have the option of choosing the application path. So I'm going to click on Browse and navigate to where my web browser is located. So once I've hit OK, and I've added my program path to my application link path here, I can now add the URL that I want to show in my web browser. So once that's done, I can click on Finish. I can now head on over to my terminal screen and add that display client to my Thin Client terminal. If you're unsure of exactly what I'm doing here, check out some of our other videos at gerrie.com/RA where I've covered these topics. So now that I've added this demo display client to my terminal, I'm going to restart it and we'll see what comes up. So we're going to see our terminals restarting here, and once this turns green and we're able to shadow this connection, we'll see our web browser is now displayed, as well as the content at gerrie.com/RA. So now that our Thin Client is restarted, we can see our display client live and online. So we can see an instance of Internet Explorer has been created, and it's showing the link at gerrie.com/RA. And because we're using the ThinManager feature application link, if I were to close this web browser, again, there's no desktop behind it, and the web browser is going to reopen and show us our content at gerrie.com/RA. This was Amy from Gerrie Electric. Check out our website at gerrie.com/RA for more technical tips and tricks.